Let's understand intent now. An intent characterizes an end user's intention for one conversation turn. You can create many intent for an agent to complete your conversation. Dialog flow matches the end user expressions to the best intent in your agent. Intent has some configuration that you can use. So let's see those configuration. So it has context, events, training phrases, action and parameter, response and our conversation, and fulfillment. Let's switch to the dialog flow. So here you can see that intents. So we can create a new intent from here, but let's see the intent that we got when we create the agent. So let me click on the default welcome intent. So here you can see the different options or the configuration that are available. Let's discuss each one in detail. So first one is context. Dialogflow contexts are similar to natural language contexts. It helps Dialogflow to correctly map the intent. You can see that it has input context and it has output context. Output context become active when an intent is recognized or mapped. Input context help Dialogflow to map or recognize the correct intent. Let me show you this on the Google Doc. So here you can see that here this is the example that they have given where user is asking about tell me about my checking account, and the intent it maps to which is check-in info. Now the check-in info intent has a response which is asking what information do you need for your checking account. The user is saying my balance, and it in turn map to checking balance intent, and which is giving this response. We can create the same flow on our agent. So let's create the intent. So the first intent that we are going to create is checking info, saving it, and I'm saying the context that it generate. Let's click on the add context and I'm saying that account info. Now let's add the training phrase here, which is tell me about my checking account. You can add more training phrases like checking account, and the response what information you are looking, and then click on save. Now let's create the other intent. So you can see that as soon as I click on save button, it started training and complete the training. Let's add the next intent, which is checking balance. Now here, this is where the context comes in picture. So we are saying that it is linked with the account info. So whenever checking info intent is recognized, it activates account info context. If the response from the user is my balance, then it maps to the checking balance intent as it knows the input context. Let me save it. So let's try this one. So I'm saying that tell me about my checking account. Here you can see that context, it is the output context which become active, and the intent it recognizes a check-in info. So let me see what it is saying, that what information you are looking for. Let's say my balance, and the intent is recognized correctly, but since we don't have any output or the response, it is not giving us any default response. So let's add you have $1,000. So let me again ask, let me save it and ask again my balance, and now you're getting this response. Now let's add one more intent with the training phrase my balance and see how input context play a major role in identifying the correct intent. So let me go ahead and say checking balance 1 as intent name. One, save it, and name as my balance. Let me delete this one, let me add this and say response is can you please say it again. Now let's try it one more time and see how it works. So now you can see that there are two intent with the same training phrase my balance. So let's try it and see how it helps. So I'm asking again, tell me about my checking account, and it is again asking me this question and I'm saying that balance. Now here you can see that it correctly recognizes the intent and it gives you the correct response. But if I reset the context, so let me reset the context. Now if I ask my balance, it recognizes the new intent. We just saw how context help in identifying the right intent. Let's move to the event. Event helps to invoke intent. There are two ways to invoke intent, either from the user request or through event. Next we have is training phrases. Training phrases help Dialogflow to match your request with this intent. So you can define as many training phrases you want so that Dialogflow recognize the intent correctly. Next we have is action and parameter. You can define the action here which will be part of your response when this intent is triggered. So let me show you this. When you say hi, this is the action that's get triggered with this intent. Parameter helps to identify the variables coming in the request. So let me add a training phrase hi from two people. So right now you can see this is the variable which is coming, which says that two people are saying hi, and this is system entity, and we will talk about entity in some time. So now you can see the parameter it fetches from that request is number parameter. So let me save it and then say hi from three people. So now if you see that parameters are coming here and are identifying as a separate, and when you see the response you can see the parameter. In the parameter you can see the number as 3. Moving on to responses, in the response section you can add the response that you want to send back for this intent. So you can add any response here. There is also an option to add responses for a specific device or for, let's say, Google Assistant. So when you select this one, the responses type may differ. So it has number of options available, but we are not going to talk about it. But you can have simple response, basic card response. If I click on this one, you will see that you can configure like this, and this is applicable for Google Assistants. The next item that we have is end of conversation. So when you enable this, Dialogflow understand that when it maps to this intent, it will be end of conversation. If I save it and say hi, when we click on a diagnostic info, here you will see that it is end of conversation is true. So this says that this is the end of conversation and Dialogflow is not expecting anything from the user. Last option we have is fulfillment. So whenever your intent needs to perform any calculation, data fetching, or wants to connect to other system to fetch or fulfill the response for this intent, then we use this option. So let me enable this option and save it. Now let's see what is the change in the diagnostic info. So if I say hi again, and if I say okay, there is no request going to the fulfillment. So let me see, let me go to the fulfillment layer. I think it is not enabled. Let's enable it. For time being, I just put any URL here just to demonstrate. Save it and say hi again. Now you are seeing here in the diagnostic info, there is a request going to the fulfillment layer. So this is the request that is going to your backend fulfillment layer where you can do all the data fetching, manipulation, all those activities. Other option we have is the sort filling. So what is sort filling? So when an intent is matched, the Dialogflow agent continuously collecting information from end user until end user provide all the required parameters. By default, Dialogflow doesn't send requests to fulfillment unless it collects all the required parameters. So let's demonstrate it. Let's say your intent needs to know how many people are saying hi. So we have system number entity mapped to the incoming request. You can see here this one is mapped to the system number entity. So if we have a parameter which is marked as required, then Dialogflow will collect the data for this parameter before sending any request to fulfillment layer. So here if you see, if I enable it, it gives me a define prompt option. So here it's just a follow-up, you can say. So we can say how many people are saying hi, and then close it and then save it. And let's see when we say hi, how it respond. So let's say hi, it says that how many people are saying hi, because this parameter is required parameter now, and in the user request there is no number coming which specify how many people are saying hi. So if you see the diagnostic info here, there is no fulfillment call is happening right now. So let me say 3 people. Now it says, it gives me the default response, one of the default response, and then when I open the diagnostic info, you are seeing that the fulfillment request is going, and the status is something like right now it is failing because we don't have working fulfillment. Enable sending each request to fulfillment, then we have to enable this setting. So let me enable it, save it, and then say hi again here. And now let me open diagnostic info. Here you can see that fulfillment request is going for each user request. So let me say number 2 here, and let's see the diagnostic info. So we just saw that after enabling short filling, each user request is going to Dialogflow layer.